recording? All right, so we are recording. All right, so hello everyone once again. Welcome to the pre-law shadower session. We're very happy that all of you are here, and we're also very delighted to have John-Paul Rodrigues with us today to speak about his law journey and his career as a paralegal instructor, a lawyer, the host of Justice in Pieces. I won't talk about too much about that. I will let John introduce himself very soon. From those watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching this video. And for all of you here at the live session, we really hope that you enjoy it. I'm sure you guys will find it very, very insightful and interesting. I know we have some pre-law students here in the room, and they're all very excited to see what you have to say. Just some quick ground rules, and then just reminders. The majority of the session is going to be John-Paul just talking about his career, obviously, as we know. But there will be around like 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the session for you guys to ask questions as well. So if you do have a question, I guess during the session, you can put it in the chat and then I can get back to it after the session. Or we could wait until after and then just raise your hand and unmute yourself. Obviously, we want this to be very interactive. So I know we have a little Kahoot game. So before we go on to, I guess, the questions and introducing, we could play this game just to get to know John-Paul a little bit. I guess a fun way of introducing himself. And so yeah, whenever you want to start the game, feel free.
Perfect. So I thought, first of all, my name is, you call me JP Rodrigues. I'm a lawyer and I'm a paralegal instructor, as well as I have a video podcast that I do for my students, primarily called Justice in Pieces, where we bring in a bunch of different speakers. So I'll kind of pause there. I thought, every time, I've interviewed so many people, they'll go into a little bit about their background. But I thought, I'm talking to university students who probably do things that are more interactive and fun. I thought, well, what's a good way to introduce myself? And I thought of how I do it for my students on the first day of class. And we have this little Kahoot game where we play three truths and a lie. So they have to identify which one is the lie. And so they do the same thing about themselves. They introduce themselves to the class. And it's a good way, especially when we're virtual, to have an idea of who everyone is. So I'm going to see if this will work. So what you have to do is, if you haven't played Kahoot, you'll have about 20 seconds to respond, and you have to pick the one that you don't think is true about me. So 4 things are going to come up on the screen. You pick the color, which one you think is the lie that's not true about me. Okay. And after we go through that, then certainly I can go right into questions. I want to make it more interactive, but I'm presuming there'll be a lot of questions about undergrad, going to law school, after law school, and certainly still being involved. I also want to make sure to talk to you about, a lot of people think the only path into the legal profession is through law school and becoming a lawyer, like I've done, but you can also become a paralegal a lot quicker time, and people don't realize the scope of practice is a lot larger than they may think. So I'll definitely hit on those things in a bit. So I think we have everybody in here. There's 8 of you, and again, I said there'll be a little prize for the winners, so all the more reason. And again, hopefully this shows there's unique paths into the legal profession, not what you may think. And some of you probably added me already on LinkedIn or wherever, and maybe have a little bit of an advantage, but we'll see how well you know me from just this 10 seconds that you have with me right now. Okay, question 1. JP went to the following schools: Osgoode Hall Law School, University of Toronto, the University of Waterloo, or Monash University, Italy campus. Right, so only one of you were able to pick that. I did not go to the University of Toronto, but I went to undergrad at the University of Waterloo. I took a Bachelor of Arts and I majored in history and sociology. I think at one point I had a major in political science, but I switched to sociology. After Waterloo, I went to law school at Osgoode in 2006. I started and I graduated in 2009. And while I was at Osgoode, I had a summer program that I took a tax law course at Monash University's Italy campus in Florence, or Firenze. and obviously a great experience. Highly would recommend if you do get a chance, and if the world allows for us to be able to travel in the near future, to do something like that while you're in undergrad or in law school or even in between. Always great to learn different perspectives. All right, question 2. JP wanted to become involved in law because he wanted to be Johnny Cochran as a kid, because he wanted to help people get out of trouble, because his parents thought it was a good career choice, or so he can make lots of money. Right, so I guess having a background, my South Asian parents, surprisingly thought law was not necessarily always wanting doctors um, but all the others are true. When I was young, I wanted to be Johnny Cochran. I think the O.J. Simpson trial, I was maybe 10, 11 years old, had an influence on me, and certainly wanted to help people get out of trouble. For anyone wanting to get into law, whether it's criminal law, whether it's real estate law, whether it's anywhere in between, certainly don't do so purely for making money. There's lots of different careers you can do, even after undergrad, even if you have to go to a professional school. But if you're only doing those things just to make money, you're going to find it's not going to be what you expect, because you're going to get burnt out more because you don't see the love and passion for your work, right? So regardless of whatever it is you want, make sure that you enjoy it. So, I mean, there's that whole expression, if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. And that's certainly true if you're doing something that you really enjoy. All right, so Aisha has taken the lead there. 3, JP practices in the following areas of law: immigration, criminal, family, or administrative. And again, you're picking the one that I don't practice in. All right, so I do criminal law and immigration law, and primarily I do it as a duty counsel, where I advise people in the middle of the night, usually, that get arrested. And so I let them know of their rights and have conversations with all sorts of different people, as well as if anyone's coming to the border and may want to make a refugee claim, or if they're detained under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. And then I have a small practice in terms of typically immigration consultants that are being disciplined by their regulatory bodies. So providing them with advice, explaining to them, or representing them if it goes to a hearing. But I don't do any family law at all. I know I think you had a family lawyer on not too long ago. So certainly if you're interested in family law, hopefully you can watch one of those recordings, or there'll be perhaps lots of future guests on here in those areas. All right, so no change. 4, JP has dealt with the following clients: a student plagiarizing a paper at university, a serial killer, a refugee seeking to make a claim at a port of entry, and a commercial real estate transaction. All right, so in addition to family law, I also don't do any real estate law, but one of the clients I had in administrative law, again, was a student in university who believe it was they didn't footnote properly. And again, I provided them assistance there and met with the people there to deal with academic penalties and so forth. As duty counsel, one of the people that needed legal advice was someone who later ended up being convicted of a number of murders, but I provided them with advice, basically explaining their rights, the right to remain silent, a number of other things like that. And as well as I just mentioned, you should have got that one for sure as a truth, was also people who want to make claims at the port of entry, wanting to know what the process is like at the border. All right, so still Aisha, but anyone can get a question right and move into first quickly. 5, JP enjoys teaching to share his love and passion for the legal field with others, so he can make use of his teaching degree, because he believes in the importance of doing different things, and because they are mostly evening classes. Right, so I do not have a teaching degree, and I do mostly teach in the evening, so it's another advantage to it. But no teaching degree. I did my undergrad again at the University of Waterloo in Bachelor of Arts, and then I went to law school. But no teaching degree, but wasn't a barrier to doing it. And I've been teaching, I think now for since 2009, not continuously, but for the most part over the last 12 years, and mostly teaching law. 6, JP has interviewed, so on my Justice and Pieces show, the Honorable Andrew Scheer, Aaron O'Toole, Jagmeet Singh, or Elizabeth May. So I got to speak over the last year with those 3 leaders and former leaders of our major federal parties, the NDP, Conservatives, and the Green Party, respectively. I do want to get Aaron O'Toole in at one point, so maybe somehow if he's listening to this or some of his staff, I would love to have you in. But I mean, I'll definitely talk about it. But over the last year, since the pandemic, I've been bringing something similar to this, is an opportunity for my students to be able to get to know various lawyers, politicians, judges, paralegals, others in the legal field, and mental health professionals, things like that, where we have exactly like this, like an hour kind of question and answer with them. And I've certainly been able to now start recording and sharing them for people beyond my students, and they're all available. I think we have about 200 different recordings. So I'll give you my contact information at the end, but if anyone likes these types of things and you want to get more, even some of the people you've had on that I love, like Kyla Lee and Sujith, they're big fans of theirs that they've been on. Please be sure to get in touch with me. But it's been a great opportunity, and I think it's great that Aisha and everyone here at Pre-Law Shadowers is doing this, because it connects people from the legal profession with students who are interested, and as well, it's very easy to do. I mean, it takes like 3 minutes for me to come here, log on, and I can talk to you for an hour or so. And otherwise, if you had to bring an event in person, it was really challenging because you got to coordinate logistically, have the room, timing to get there back. It's a lot harder to get people. So hopefully one day Aaron O'Toole as well, but I've got the chance with the other 3. 7, JP has enjoyed traveling to the following countries. So very pertinent now that we can't really travel: Brazil, Liechtenstein, Russia, or China. So which is not one of the places I've been. So surprisingly as well, I've not been to Brazil. It's really probably at the top of my list, but whenever I get to go, hopefully that will be one of the places I'll visit next. But I've been to Liechtenstein, China, and Russia. 8, JP has a 3-year-old, a son, 1 child, or a daughter. It's one of those. This is probably like the Lsat logic games kind of questions you can eliminate by process of elimination. Right, so I have a 3-year-old son, so he's my only child, so those 3 are all true, but no daughter. 9, in his studies, JP was the president of the student council, a writer for the school newspaper, specializing in criminal law, or played Lisa Turtle in the school sketch comedy show. Some of you might be too young to know Lisa Turtle, but apparently they brought Saved by the Bell back, so maybe you do. Okay, so most of you got that, although I am in criminal law now. I wasn't specializing it in law school. So again, and I'll talk about this more if people have questions, but you may have a path that you're thinking about right now in your pre-law studies, and you may change like 15 times between now and where you end up when you start practicing law in the future. Ten, JP has had which of the following jobs? A door-to-door salesman, a paralegal, a rapper slash DJ, or an English teacher? Right, so only one of you got it. Although I'm a lawyer, I've never practiced or never worked as a paralegal. And when I was 18, I used to do door-to-door sales. I think it was water coolers that we were selling, one of my first jobs I had. When I was teaching law, I taught law overseas, and I was also teaching a little bit of English at the time there. And it's going to be a great story. I think someone is going to ask about it. But when I was overseas teaching law, I had a little music career, and certainly a lot of fun and very interesting. And it's on my resume still because it usually starts conversations with the interviewer. It's the only thing they want to learn. They don't necessarily want to know about my legal career or my studies or my grades. The first question is, so tell me about being a rapper in China. How did that happen? And certainly I'm sure that we can start with that a little bit later when we get to question and answer. All right, so Abdel is now taking the lead. 11, JP has done which of the following wild things? Red, gone running with the Bulls. Blue, been a contestant on a foreign version of the TV show Wipeout. Yellow, gone bungee jumping. Or green, argued before the Supreme Court of Canada. All right, so unfortunately, I think most of you got it. I did not argue yet, or have not had an opportunity before the Supreme Court of Canada. It's interesting because usually my students always get this one wrong too, but I've done all those other things, and certainly know it's not much about law, but can definitely answer any questions about those as well afterwards. And finally, JP has done which of the following wild things part 2? Gone skydiving, have a viral rap video in China, gone scuba diving in Australia, or gone surfing in California. All right, so all those other ones are true, but I'm not much of a surfer, if anything, but maybe, you never know, one day. All right, so let's see who are our winners here. So Aisha, unfortunately, in 3rd place there. Florida or Florida in 2nd, and congratulations, Abdel, for being the winner. Got half of the questions, so good work. I guess with intuition, maybe it'll help you with future Lsat practice test there. But I'm going to stop the sharing so we can get back here. There's the screen, and hope that kind of gave you a very interesting overview about who I am. And I think maybe we can go right into some questions. Maybe you might have Christiane or anyone else, and certainly any of those things we can elaborate on, or anything different, whatever you are interested in learning about.
I just quickly, sorry, Christiane. Can I just let me put my hand up? I think because I'm a co-host, so I'm really sorry for piping. And I just wanted to say thank you to JP for the Kahoot. It's a very new and interesting way for us to have a guest speaker on. And I love that it was interactive, and it really, like, those of you that are watching the recording, I hope that you're able to attend live next time, because this might be something we'll start doing maybe. It was genuinely really fun. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Aisha. And even if you're watching this on replay, hopefully you were just trying to guess yourself, compete with, maybe you can see if you would have got more than 6 there. But yeah, again, I think it's all about being interactive now, and that's how I would start my first day of a new cohort or new class that I have. And again, just as bad as everyone here, most people get them wrong, and then because they have a certain perspective. And I think maybe some of you think, well, hey, this is what, when I envision a lawyer, they would have done this or they wouldn't have done that. And some of them are just completely random. But it's important to know that everyone has a different path. And it's great that, again, you're doing this because you're meeting so many different legal professionals and law students. And I think when the takeaway, and certainly when I've hosted all of the different people I've had, is everyone has this unique little piece to their take into everything. So right now, some of you might be in political science, some of you might be in science, some of you might be in engineering. When I went to law school, I had classmates that were in all different areas of law, as well as different ages, right? Don't think that everyone's just coming fresh out of high school, going into undergrad, then going into law school. I mean, that's what I did, but there are others who come back after 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. I recently interviewed someone from the University of Windsor Law School, and I think he's in his 50s, and he came back he set this goal for his whole life to become a lawyer and be in law school, and his name is George. And he went just recently, and now he's in law school. So again, don't let any of that hinder you from what you want to do in your future.
For sure. For sure. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, like Aisha said, it was very interactive. And I think we really, especially nowadays, we need that sort of engagement because we miss that, right? So I guess that's the closest thing to which we can get. So I do want to, I know you did kind of talk a little bit about your previous education, especially your undergrad and which courses that you took. But I do want to kind of focus on law school itself just a little bit. And I guess maybe the admission process as well. For example, your LSAT, if you could just tell us a little bit about how that test went for you. I know a lot of people who are probably watching right now are applying to law school very, very soon. So yeah, if you can give us any advice about the LSAT, maybe in particular, because I know that test gets a lot of nerves going, but yeah.
Yeah, so I wrote the LSAT. I have no idea when. Probably it was in my third year in undergrad, and I think I did pretty well. It was like, I did well enough to get into Osgood, so I think it was like, I feel like in the 80s, 80 to 85th percentile, somewhere in there. I know after I wrote it the first time, I was like, I don't know if this is going to be good enough to go to law school or the law schools I wanted to go to. And I remember writing it again, thinking, oh, it's going to be a lot different. I'm going to do things differently. But I think the improvement was negligible. So I think a lot of people feel that if you go and write it again, you're going to automatically, I mean, in some cases, there are a big discrepancy, big change. But I remember the first time I wrote it, I don't think I put as much energy into like I wasn't studying really hardcore. And then the second time I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do things differently and do some more practice tests. But again, I think it was maybe in the low 80th percentile the first time, and I think at the end it was like in the middle 80th percentile. I feel like 164 or something stands out. So I have no idea if I could ever figure out what I actually got now, but somewhere in there. And I found the hardest thing back then, I mean, it's gonna be different now. I believe you're gonna be writing online. I remember writing in this big room, and I think you had to like use your fingerprints. I think they maybe even got rid of that too. And you just have all these people, and I know you've written university exams. Again, some of you maybe not, because I know it's COVID times where you don't have things in person. But I remember in Waterloo, we'd have this big gymnasium, and there'd be hundreds of people writing every different exam. And that kind of has an intimidating effect. I remember during the LSATs, a few people walked out during the exam, but just their nerves may have got to them. So I think that's one of the things I would advise anyone writing, is to just put yourself in a calm mentality. I mean, you're going to be home. That presents a different set of circumstances as well, I would think, if you're doing it online. I'm not familiar with how they've changed a lot of the rules now with COVID, but get yourself mentally prepared for that. And the same thing I tell my students when they have their exams and their licensing exams to become paralegals is, it's kind of like in boxing. Now, if anyone ever watched like Mike Tyson, or for those younger, Conor McGregor, right? They'd have this mentality that when they would have beaten you mentally at the pre-fight conference or before you even stepped into the ring, because they've mentally convinced you that you couldn't beat them. So if you have that same approach with the LSAT, that if it's mentally going to beat you, then it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you get nervous and you get worried and you get anxiety. But if you kind of come in there feeling calm, cool, collected, and obviously you need to do the work and the preparation beforehand, you're going to put yourself in a lot better situation to get better results. And that goes with any test, any assignment, any essay. I mean, you got to have that positive energy and mentally think that you're going to do well and succeed on it.
For sure. Yeah, that's great advice. I know personally I'm not the best when it comes to tests. I always let my nerves get the best of me. And I'm thinking to write the LSAT next year. So I think that's great advice. All right. And continuing on, like about law school itself. Are there any like misconceptions that, I know, for example, a lawyer that we had on here just during the last session said that her clothing choices weren't the best when it came to law school. She was like, she got all dressed up, she was saying, and for the first day, only to notice that people go in there with like jeans and sweaters. But are there any misconceptions about law school that, TV shows or movies might trick you?
Well, I mean, I think, well, first of all, if you're going to be on Zoom, I mean, I know right now from the first year students or second year students I've been talking to on my Justice and Pieces there for my students, I mean, you're lucky if you're on camera and you see people. I know it's just, I think, us two here right now. So I'm very much at home here with a lot of like the black screens with the letters, and a lot of the law students say the same thing. So you don't even have to worry about what you're wearing. But I mean, I'm presuming if not this September, in September 2022 or whenever all of you get to law school, you'll be back in person, hopefully in some capacity. And again, I was always just pretty much rolling out of bed, putting on sweats and whatever. I mean, similar to probably what you do in undergrad, and head over to law school. I did live 1 year on campus that I thought that was great, but again, not necessarily needed, but again, to each their own. I think, there's always this mentality that people believe it's ultra competitive. I mean, I think it makes for great TV shows, right? Where someone goes and finds the answer in the textbook and they rip out the page so nobody else can find it in the library. I think it was very collaborative. It was great. I mean, a lot of the people I keep in touch with today were the ones that I would spend all day, all night, into the wee hours of the morning I think it was room 209 or 108. We used to study in at Osgood, and you would have a very collaborative environment. Actually, tomorrow, the speaker that's coming to talk to me is a partner at Miller Thompson, and we go all the way back to our very first couple of days of law school. And you won't realize how important those connections are. So I think that's a misconception, is a lot of people come in. Certainly there are people that are, the quote unquote gunners that'll come to law school and they'll just tune everything out and they want to get all the A's and succeed. But I remember even the people who had the best marks in our school were the ones that they were out enjoying the social events as well and making those connections. And one of the things I would stress is, I mean, even in undergrad, don't forget about the people that you are studying with. I mean, you're going to be the same ones that are here. You're going to go to law school together. You're going to go and find jobs together. You're going to go and write the bar together. You're going to go get called as lawyers together. You're going to go work in the profession together. You're going to move up in the profession together. You may go and become judges or adjudicators or whatever, but those people are important now because they may be just as important to you in the future. And like I said, a lot of the people I still keep in touch with, even though like 5 years, 10 years now have passed, we just pick up right where we left off. It's because we are going through a difficult thing together. So I think that's a misconception, that a lot of people think it's all about just school and nothing else. And not to say that there aren't people who probably were very successful focusing solely on their marks and getting the best results they could get, but I think there's a time and place for everything, and whether that's doing extracurriculars to help connect with those individuals, or it's just walking down the hall or sitting in the cafeteria and making those connections just as important. So that's one of the things that I would stress. And I know it's really difficult today. Just like I tell my students that they don't really see each other, so it's harder to make that connection over Zoom or Microsoft Teams or WhatsApp or email. So try, or LinkedIn, right? So try using those platforms, and maybe you can have like a virtual session like kind of this. You have a Zoom coffee rather than an actual coffee, and you never know how where those people are going to be in the future, and it's very important to keep those connections and preserve them.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, no, I definitely think it's very important to have that balance between, your social life and your academic life, because it will help you in the future, and connections are so, so important, especially in the legal field as well. So just to kind of take it back even further before law school, I know you mentioned watching the O.J. Simpson case, so I guess I wanted to kind of base a question off of that and just ask you, at what point in your life did you know that you wanted to go into the legal field? Like, was there a certain experience or a certain time where, you thought to yourself, okay, I think I want to go into law. This is something that, I really want to do.
So I think, I mean, I don't know exactly when, but I do, and I was just sharing this with my students last week, because every time I've been visiting, my mom, I would find, there's something lying in my old bedroom. But I remember something about wanting to be a lawyer and wanting to go to law school. I think it was like at a very young age, like 10, 11. So that's where, and I remember the O.J. Simpson trial. I mean, I was big in sports, so that was kind of why I was maybe initially interested, but I thought that was cool, and I thought it was really interesting and very captivating, and it was certainly all over TV at the time. And so as long as I remember, I wanted to be involved in law, and it wasn't always criminal. I kind of wavered. And but in high school, I mean, my plan was obviously to go to an undergrad and get into a program that will help me go into law school. I think what I would know now that I didn't know then is I had got accepted into a journalism program, and it's probably why I'm doing a lot of my interviews and stuff, because I had that interest as well. But I didn't go because I thought it's better to go into something like political science, and then I didn't even finish in political science. But there is no set path. So right now, whatever undergrad major you have, it doesn't preclude you from going to law school, right? People are in engineering, and then and then why are you in law school? It doesn't seem like, it seems random, but they're doing like IP law or patents, where they understand, the science and the background that helps them then provide legal advice, right? Same thing if you're in like a medicine program or optometry. Again, there's going to be optometrists that are sued for negligence or professional misconduct, and you understand all of those things. So there's no undergraduate degree that is going to preclude you from going to law school. So I've always had that interest, and I thought I had all the answers when I was 12, 13, wherever. But looking back at it now, I mean, I've always had the interest, but there's different paths how you can get to law school if that's your goal. And certainly if you want to get into the legal profession, like I said, you don't have to go to law school. You can go and become a paralegal. And again, contrary to something, again, I wouldn't have known in 2002 or 2006, then when I was an undergrad, that I could have done a 1-year program and been licensed by the Law Society in 2007 and been able to practice 3-4 years before if I wanted to only work in certain areas of law.
For sure. I also really like how you mentioned that there's different paths. It's not just one. I know some people in pre-law shadowers are in science right now. My friend, she's majoring in theater, but she still wants to go to law school. And I think that's the beauty of law school, that it doesn't matter. Law school doesn't care about your background or, your undergraduate degree. So I think that's really good. So a little bit more about, what you do now in the legal field. You said you practice criminal law, immigration law, and administrative law, if if I correctly remember.
Yep.
But I guess my question is, what's your favorite? What's your favorite out of the three of them, and what do you like most about it?
So I mean, right now, I'm mostly working as duty counsel in my practice, which is usually it's like wee hours of the night, typically like 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. or a couple days a week I'll work and provide advice. So that's how I think people were asking about the serial killer. I can't tell you who they are, but I know if you there's a video of them being interrogated that's available. And if you watch like the full version, somewhere like at 40 minutes, they're like, you spoke to Mr. Rodrigues, and what did he tell you? And so it's interesting. It's rare that one of those things are available. So you could probably figure out that way. But also great if you're interested in learning about the police side of how they ask questions. I think it's a great video for that as well. But yeah, so I mean, I think criminal law was always something that I think it's maybe being a bit more biased. It's very interesting. I remember one of my first days as an articling student, which is like the internship process between law school and becoming a lawyer. I was doing my articling with two criminal defense lawyers. They were spouses, so it's even more interesting, but they were both practicing in criminal law too. And one of them had took me into the court and said, look, I know you watch all these TV shows where it's like wild and crazy, but criminal law is not exactly like that. So I don't want to get your hopes up that it's going to be, like Suits or something. But we walked into the court, and I kid you not, at some point, one of the people in the box, one of the prisoners, took off their pants and threw it towards the judge, and then they had to get removed, and it was a whole thing. And I turned to them and I said, is this what you meant by it's not being exciting? Maybe you undersold it, maybe it was coincidental. But I remember as well, sometimes chasing after a client that got on the bus and left court so they wouldn't get a bench warrant for missing court. But there are a lot of fun things. It's not always going to be that exciting, but no, I certainly prefer having that time in criminal law. And certainly as duty counsel, I get to speak to thousands, probably 10,000 different people who have been arrested, and they all are sort of probably their worst moments in their life, and you got to be able to be compassionate as well as explain them their legal rights. And you have a very short window before you have to advise somebody else. So I think it's important to have a lot of those characteristics that you don't necessarily learn in law, right? You learn that from your own backgrounds, and someone that has a theater background, which is great because when you go into court, it's kind of like theater, right? I mean, yes, you have a law that you're arguing, but oral advocacy is very much a fundamental part of the profession. So primarily, like I said, I'm doing duty counsel work. I mean, I have a handful of clients that are at various stages with in administrative law and their professional discipline proceedings, and a few criminal matters here and there that I take on when I'm not teaching. Predominantly, I'm teaching as well during the day, so kind of have like the duty counsel work in the wee hours of the night, sleep a little bit in the daytime, and then teach in the evenings is sort of how I try to make things work. And I love teaching, certainly, again, providing people an opportunity to then take that knowledge and better themselves and get into the legal profession as well.
For sure. And just staying on the topic of teaching, I do want to move on to that. I know you are an instructor at the Algonquin Careers Academy, and I just wanted to kind of focus on that aspect of your career and your life for a moment. So just what made you want to pursue that career in the education field? And I guess what are your favorite things about being an instructor as well?
So it kind of happened, and I guess I'll segue right into everyone was wanting to know about the music stuff. So after law school, like I said, there's the articling period, and again, I had gone through high school, then undergrad, and law school kind of right one after another. I think I'd finished undergrad in like August of 2006, and I went to law school like 3 weeks later. So there was not even like a little pause. So again, I went in, I was looking for articling jobs, and nothing was really coming at the time. And I said there was an opportunity to teach law in China from Osgood. And so I thought, well, hey, this is great. I've always wanted to teach. I don't need to go to teacher's college and get another year. I can go and teach. If I like it, then I can hopefully figure out if I want to go in that direction, maybe get like a PhD and become an academic. Or if I don't, at least I get this experience of being in China. And I'd previously been in Italy as well as in the Middle East in terms of courses during law school. So I love the traveling, and I've been to like 60 different countries and all of that. I thought, well, if nothing else, I've never really been into Asia. I can use that too. So I went in teaching tort law and contract law, and I think trial advocacy. And I loved it. Obviously, a lot of the students there, they wanted an opportunity to learn and perfect their English. So we did a lot of mock trials and things like that to get their written and oral English. And so it was such a great experience when I was teaching in China that when I came back after a couple of years, I got my articling done. I got called to the bar. I was working as a lawyer, and then another opportunity presented itself. So I do teach at Algonquin Careers Academy. I also teach at Trials College, where I'm the program coordinator as well there. So developing the curriculum, all of that. And again, it's great to be able to work with students who are looking to aspire into the legal profession, provide opportunities like mock trials. I think a really good mooting for anyone in undergrad. If you've not done that, I mean, if you want to learn more about getting into law, I mean, try mooting. It gives you a good experience. And I've been doing that since 2014, pretty much, at the two schools mainly. Algonquin came a few years later, and just find time, again, different areas of law, different courses, and again, try to make things more interactive. And I've done really well, especially with the podcast that we've worked in for the students. And I've loved it. And certainly we can go back and talk more about China, I think, if you have a follow-up to that.
For sure. That's amazing. If you want, you can go ahead and talk about China if you like, just a little bit more if you want to elaborate.
Right. So, well, while I was there, so you get the premise that I was teaching law in China. It was like 1 day a week. So it was great that it was usually Mondays. I would have 2 classes on Mondays. And again, because of the time difference, by the time I was done my work for the week, everyone, all my friends who were articling and working as lawyers, like they were just getting ready to start their long 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. And so they were always telling me how jealous they were I took this kind of time off. And I love it. I was looking for things to do on the side to pass the time, right? You couldn't always travel, right? I had to be back. So one of my friends there was singing, and they would need the accompanying tracks. So I used to DJ a lot of the law school parties when I was the president of the school. So I had a little bit of background. So I said, yeah, I can get you the instrumentals, and I could be there, maybe play a little bit while you were performing. And again, it's because there's not that many foreigners where we were in China. So we were like the the entertainment that you get from overseas. And one thing led to another, and then they asked, well, can you sing? And I'm like, no, I mean, I'm not even karaoke, but I can probably rap, I suppose, because most people aren't speaking English, wouldn't understand if I messed up or said the wrong words or stumbled. So we gave it a shot, and we were doing like covers of various songs. Like I remember Umbrella, and I would do like the little Jay-Z part, and I think even Justin Bieber and Ludacris, and I would do like the little Ludacris verse. And eventually we used to do a song, Empire State of Mind. And I thought it was weird, we're just like covering other people's songs. And so I worked with someone there in China that we changed the lyrics to make it about the city that we were in, which was Chongqing. And we would perform it. It was fun, like it was wild. Everyone has probably that desire in life to be like a movie star or a music star or anything. So I got to live my best life there. And then when I was leaving, I was like, okay, I did 2 years of teaching. I thought that was it, to go on and get my articling done now. I made like a little PowerPoint video, not really, very rudimentary. And I sent it kind of as like a goodbye, thanks for the memories. And someone posted it on like the Chinese, I think it's called Weibo, which is like Twitter or Facebook type of platform. And apparently gotten a lot of views. It went viral. And so then they had like newspaper articles about it and interviews. So they're like, well, what are you doing in Canada? So I came back and got to do a few shows, perform. They had like a feature on me, like one of Chongqing's great people. It was this entertaining thing. At part of the time as well, I got to go on their version of Wipeout. I didn't really do well, but I think our team won, but I stumbled and fell miserably. But again, another great experience. So all of that came because I initially didn't land an articling job. So a lot of people tell you about, their successes and they get all of this, but it's also important that you also convert, every failure or every mistake there. I mean, it's just a learning opportunity. And I took that, and I wouldn't have had that opportunity to do all of those things. I mean, I also ended up meeting my wife when I was in China. So I mean, everything that I have really today stems from not being able to land an articling job when I was in law school right away. And so while you could be discouraged by some of those things that happen to you, I mean, don't let it linger, and don't dwell on it, but move on and look at how you can turn that lemon into lemonade, or in my case, into like a rap career. That it's always funny because I look at some of the comments, like people are calling me like Lil Wayne and Jay-Z, and it was like you guys don't really know what it's like, but I'll enjoy the admiration while I can. Having like, there was even like police escorts. It was like the most. I wish it was like in the Instagram era, because I could show you what it was really like. But certainly it was a great experience. And again, I encourage you to look at other opportunities. I know there are people doing work with NGOs in places like Asia and Africa that you can do, as well as bolster towards your legal career, but also have fun at the same time. It's a very stressful profession. There's a lot of work, a lot of hours, but you need to kind of carve out things that you enjoy and take time to take care of your own mental health as well.
For sure. That's great advice and amazing experiences. Not a lot of people can say that they were on Wipeout or they were a rapper that went famous in China. Like that's awesome. And I know not a lot of lawyers can say that too. So that's great. I know we are running a little bit out of time, so I do want to pass the floor to the people here listening, and in case they have any questions. But I think I just have one more question. If there's any advice that you can give to, you know, the next future generations of aspiring legal professionals, people like us, pre-law students, people who are watching, what would be like the biggest advice, I guess, like one key point that you would want everyone to kind of know?
And so I would say, again, to reiterate, don't think you have to have this set path of what I'd like to do. And I mean, certainly you can have goals and have your goals and dream big and accomplish your dreams, right? I mean, if you invest into your dreams, then your dreams will invest back into you as well. But I mean, don't kind of go and have tunnel vision that this is exactly the path that I'm going to go, because you may go, you have those like viral TikTok videos where it's like the Canada and COVID and it goes all over the place there, if you know what I'm talking about. But that's kind of like what your journey is going to be between now and when you practice in the profession. Even after you get into law school, you may be thinking every time you take a course, it may change where you want to go. And then maybe you get an articling job somewhere else and it causes you to reevaluate. So again, if you have that ambition, continue to have it, continue to dream, continue to believe, but be open to, like I said, you can become a paralegal, for example, and I have students who then go on to law school afterwards, but paralegals, for example, can practice in small claims matters where they, a lot of people have this called, I think I call it like the Meghan Markle effect. They watch Suits again and they think, hey, well, a paralegal works in a law office and they assist lawyers. Well, in Ontario, they're licensed. So they can take on clients on their own in areas like small claims court. They can appear before a number of tribunals like the Human Rights Tribunal, where they can work on tens of thousands or hundreds of $1,000 matters. And unless, again, you're really zeroed in on like real estate, family law for now, and various other pieces like some criminal, some immigration that's out of their scope, you can do a lot of that as a licensed paralegal, which you can do after, right after or partway through an undergrad and do a one-year program. So again, keep your options open. I mean, my advice would be to continue to have those dreams, but don't kind of get down a tunnel thinking this is the only way I can be a lawyer, or even if you don't necessarily end up being a lawyer, the only way I can be successful.
For sure. Thank you so much for answering that question, especially that one. It's very, very important. And yeah, I'd like to now pass the floor to any of you guys who want to ask a question. If you want, you could just type it into the chat, or you can raise your hand and unmute. So yeah, if anyone has a question, feel free. Now's the time. Okay, I see Harry's hand raised. So Harry, if you want to unmute yourself.
Hi, so thank you very much for being here. I've really kind of enjoyed this presentation in particular because, of course, we started off with something fun, and like I really like your story in terms of like you've shown us that you can kind of like live a really fun life and still be, decadent in your profession. So thank you very much for being here, first off. And then I have a question about your position as a duty counsel. So I know, or like in my experience, it's kind of like learning what a duty counsel does and their obligations. It's kind of been more so like scenarios, like not really looking at cases in particular. But I have a question about kind of like the duty to consult and like as a duty counsel, would you tell, let's say, someone who's calling in and asking for legal help to kind of like let the police officers or whoever's attending to them like do their duty and kind of like not push them to do something that is their obligation? For example, with the duty to consult, would you tell someone who's looking for legal help to say, okay, so their job is to let you know that you have, the duty to get counsel and get legal help, right? And then afterwards, they kind of have to like facilitate open communication with us and legal counsel. So would you tell them to kind of like let them do their job and don't kind of like try to do anything? Because if they did, then they could kind of instigate something that maybe they would have missed and would have gotten the trial taken out because they missed something.
So whenever someone calls me, so typically what would happen when we have like this 1-800 number that the police call after they've either detained someone and they're maybe at the roadside or at someone's house, or more common, they've brought them back to the police station. And then they'll tell us what the list of charges are and what's going on. again, it could be an immigration matter as well, or it could even be public intoxication, or like even potentially today with COVID related scenarios as well, that they could be breaking those kinds of laws. So again, the first thing I always say, and I say this probably a dozen times over the course of our 5 to 10 minute call, and I know you may have heard Kyla, but it actually, I think somehow originates from one of the lawyers at her firm that's made its way over to Ontario, is lawyer told me not to talk. And I kind of repeat that over and over again, because it's very simple advice, but it's easy to remember, is don't answer any questions. You have the right to remain silent, and stressing the importance of remaining silent over and over again. So that the police have a duty, I mean, first of all, to facilitate the call, let you know of the, there's the informational component, which is telling you, you have the right to speak to a lawyer. And then they have the implementational component, which is actually putting you in touch with a lawyer. Now, if you know of a specific lawyer and you tell the police, I want to talk to Kyla Lee, or I want to talk to Sujith there, they have to make attempts to contact them. So they can't just give you the duty counsel. So one of the things I would tell is that right to instruct counsel, and to say, look, if you know of somebody, let the police know I want to talk to this specific lawyer, because I'm just someone over the phone. It's not even video, right? You don't even see me. You may not have that trust in me. We're having a very short conversation, but maybe you trust somebody else. So letting them know, and then, even letting the police know that they want to speak to this particular lawyer, so it satisfies that duty. And again, I emphasize all of the other things that they have rights to, right? Don't unlock your cell phone or give the password to the police, right? I mean, if they have a warrant, they can use the warrant to get into whatever, but don't give them anything more. And again, the most important thing is not to talk, because anything you say, again, as you watch on TV, can be used against you. But what happens if a year later you're going to forget a little detail, and then the Crown is going to tell you that you're inconsistent and you have credibility issues? Or now you've given them an advance notice of what you may run at trial as a defense, like self-defense, or it was consensual or whatever, right? So most important thing is people know not to speak to the police. And at the same time, I think what you were talking about there, and I've spoken to high school students as well, and I tell them the same thing. Well, these are what your rights are, but I mean, if you ever find yourself in a practical situation, you make sure you don't need to be rude about it just because you could be, because why inflame the situation? Police officers are only humans too. Just because later on you may win a case or get constitutional challenge, you're going to have to go through all that process because you were unnecessarily rude about it, right? So you have the right to remain silent, exercise that right, keep quiet, but don't instigate a situation for no reason just because maybe you have a charter right that you could do so.
Thank you very much. That was a great response. And then I have one follow-up question. I do believe that you said that when you dealt with this serial killer, it was as as a duty counsel that you.
As duty counsel, yeah.
Yeah. So you said that you learned kind of like the facts of who the person is and what they allegedly did, or what kind of just some general information about what's going on at the scene. So as a duty counsel, were you morally conflicted if upon hearing that this person could potentially be a serial killer, or was kind of caught in the act of being a serial killer, or killing someone, or doing something of that nature?
I think criminal defense lawyers get this question quite a lot, and I've certainly asked it a lot from guests that I've had on. But I believe that everyone should be afforded, regardless. We have one of the things, we have the rule of law, which means everyone is equal before and under the law. So it doesn't matter about kind of what the accusations are. And again, as well, at that point, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So if you feel morally conflicted, then you shouldn't be working in those fields or advising those people, right? You need to know that this is the law. I'm going to tell them of all their rights because they're entitled to it. And if I do my job and the police do their job, and the jury and the judge and everybody in the system and the defense counsel that they retain, if everyone does their job correctly, then the justice system will work, right? I mean, the reason why we have a standard beyond a reasonable doubt is because we would rather, a few people may walk away free that may have been guilty, but at the same time, we don't want to be putting people in jail, or back in the days, we would execute people, and some countries in the world do, unless we were absolutely sure beyond any reasonable doubt of their guilt. So again, I look at it as we need to ensure that they get their rights, regardless of if they're accused of, public intoxication or, a minor shoplifting, or in this case, multiple homicides, right? Is that you explain the process, you explain their rights, you explain what they're entitled to, and you let the justice system take its course, right? And again, if a police officer violates their rights, I mean, that's not on me, that's on the officer. If the trial takes too long to start, again, that's on the system for making it take too long. Because I mean, other countries, and people wonder, well, why do we have a time limit? Well, if you're in jail for 3-4 years waiting for a trial that you are innocent of, I mean, you may break down, you may confess, you may do something just to get out of there, and that's not really fair. Or they may just delay it, just hoping for you to get out. So again, you're innocent until proven guilty. And if you remember that, and you remember everyone's equal before and under the law, and those two principles there, then certainly you won't look at it, because I look at them as being not guilty at that point, and they're entitled to know everything that they want to know about the law at that period of in that moment of time. And again, whatever happens afterwards is then passed on to the next duty counsel or the lawyer that they retain to represent them.
Okay, thank you. That's really good advice. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Harry, for that question. Does anyone else have another maybe quick question before we wrap up?
Again, I'm sorry for turning my mic on. I cannot use the raise hand function. But I just had a question about, I know that we talked about your path to your career, and we touched on Justice and Peace itself, but I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more about that. I know that you said that you were interested in journalism going into your undergrad, and that's kind of why you're also interested in Justice and Pieces, but is there a reason that you started it? I know that it was initially for like your students, and I see that it seems like it's opened up to a lot more people than just that, and I would really like to know how this started and kind of the journey that it's been, and now how it's taken off so much, if you could just speak on that.
So thanks, Aisha, and for those of you who are listening, certainly Aisha was just a recent guest as well on Thursday, I believe. And so it started really, we had, I remember pretty vividly, because again, I'm a big basketball fan. For anyone who's a big basketball fan, you may remember the same ways, like Rudy Gobert had tested positive for COVID-19. And I was sitting there in class or after class. I brought in a couple students to talk, former students who had just passed their licensing exams, to share the news with my students. And a couple days later, pretty much everything was being shut down. And we had March break around that time. So after the break, we were back in a remote environment for the very first time. And we had things like Microsoft Teams and rights-based platforms, but now the lectures would be online and remote, and they were happening live, right? I was still there and they were still listening, and we had things like Kahoot and certainly, and we had the slides that they could see, but it was a little limiting, right? And I found, I mean, as well, I think my students did an excellent job in adapting, like on the fly. I mean, we have like a class chat in real time, which you would never have in person. So I mean, there's certainly a lot of advantages of learning in this way, but we were having a great engagement. I was thinking, well, what can I do to further that engagement? And I reached out to one of my friends. His name was Chris Suratin, who's a criminal defense lawyer. And we were trying to figure out how to do it, but I had him on Skype, and I was like trying to share the screen we use Microsoft Teams. And from there, I thought, hey, it was really, once we get the technology working, it's pretty easy to just reach out to someone. They have a lot more free time now. They don't have to come in. And one thing led to another. Then I brought in a couple other friends, and then I tried, let me see if I could do it every day. So every day, right before class started at 6 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, I would bring in a guest, criminal lawyers, small claims paralegals, people from the Law Society, a couple judges, a lot of politicians, and we would just do it every day. I would share the screen from Zoom, or I'd have the students in Zoom or whatever, and they would be able to benefit from it. Once we started bringing a few politicians, I thought, well, others in the school or anyone would be interested. So I looked at how, probably the same thing, Aisha, you must have done, of how I can get this available. And I saw YouTube, you could stream to it live, So I started just having my students sit on Zoom and then streaming it to YouTube, and with every sort of politician that I thought maybe others would want to listen to. And then eventually, I know my wife's in digital marketing, and so she said, "Why don't you like just make it available for any?" Because there's pre-law students, there's undergrads like yourselves, there are law school students. I mean, there's paralegal students at other colleges, and there's lawyers and paralegals who can get professional development hours from listening to their colleagues. So I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. We slowly started marketing it and getting some of the students involved. And again, every day we've been, I mean, almost everyone. I mean, there's a few people who wouldn't want it recorded, but every day at 5 o'clock we have different people on, and every weekday, sorry, and it's just been growing and growing and growing. So I think last week we crossed over 300 guests, and about 200 or so are recorded and available. And I'll put in the chat here, but for anyone listening on YouTube, it's you can follow on Instagram. It's justiceinpieces.ca, and the website there as well. And on the Linktree, it has all the links to previous speakers and current ones that are coming. And you can connect, and you can do the same thing with a lot of them and ask them questions. And again, it's open to anyone, and very informal process that we go through. So lighthearted, and get all the information. So it's really grown. I mean, I loved doing this and getting to know other people. I mean, it's great what you're doing because it's the same thing, right? You're getting to know different lawyers, and everyone has something that they're going to share, right? I mean, I could honestly say from all like 303 or so people that I've learned something personally, different areas of law that I've never practiced in, just different aspects of life, you know, motivational advice, inspirational stuff, a lot of politics, everything mixed in there. And again, you're going to find somebody that resonates with you. So for those listening here, I mean, maybe you had this desire to travel now more so than ever, and you're thinking, well, hey, he did it, he had fun, he did all of this stuff, and then settled down and became a lawyer, and probably still has some fun. It's certainly possible. And then maybe you listen to Kyla, who's also a lot of fun now, even today. I mean, I'm sure if you listen to Kyla Lee there, she's great there, and you learn a lot from her, right? And then you can learn from all of these different people. And again, all of us have different paths. So whether you're listening on Pre-Law Shadowers, you're listening on Justice in Pieces, I mean, there's so many other people providing great content right now that's free. You should be soaking it all up and learning from all these people. And then also, I mean, the other piece here is connecting on LinkedIn or whatever platform and getting mentorship. The best thing you can learn is asking questions. And again, a lot of people in the profession will be more than happy to share with you, just like what I'm doing here today, a little bit more about their path. So again, I would highly encourage people to, whether it's continuing to come to all of these events that Pre-Law Shadowers are putting on, and then again, throughout the next little while you're in undergrad, continue to build on that and continue to connect with people and find other places as well. And make sure you're looking and getting all of those little pieces of advice. Again, I call it Justice in Pieces because you're getting little pieces about the justice system from all of the different people that I bring on. And I've really loved it. I love talking to people. It's interesting today being on the other side of the microphone and answering questions. But you learn so much, and I'm very grateful that my students certainly have enjoyed that opportunity. And I think now that I'm able to open it up to literally anyone who wants to watch it, I'm going to keep doing so. And again, highly encourage everyone here to watch every little thing you can get your hands on, especially that's free, because all of it helps shape you for whether you want to go to law school and certainly beyond, or even if you don't go into law, right? I mean, just learning a little bit about our legal system and the different areas of law is important.
Thank you so much for answering my question and speaking about that. I know I'm really interested in hearing about Justice in Pieces, and I know that a lot of people watching this would also be really interested. And I will put the Instagram in the chat for those of you that want to check it out. We will also, we already have it tagged on the session post. So yeah, and thank you for putting the website as well. So for those of you that want to look further into that, that is available for you.
And that being said as well, I know you have a lot of volunteers, but if anyone is interested, certainly, I mean, it was initially geared towards my own students, but if you're interested in volunteering, wanting some more things, I know there's people doing a lot of these things here as well, but certainly I can help connect you with some different lawyers and paralegals and others, and you can connect and write to them and help out as well. But I'd encourage you, first of all, if you're helping out here in pre-law shadowers, whether you're blogging, whether you're sharing your own journeys, continue to do so and keep doing so, because it's important that others know about your journey as well as what you're thinking about, questions you have, because others are having those same questions and they may not be here to share them, or they may not be thinking anyone's interested, but you're also part of the legal system here as well, right? In terms of on your path. And you can also give back. I mean, I was sharing this before as well, but we go from senior partners to junior partners to senior associates to junior associates to first year associates to articling students to third year law students to second year to first year to just getting into law school to pre-law like yourselves, even into college and high school students, or even, I mean, I suppose you can go to those interested in elementary school, but I mean, everyone can gain if you pay it forward. So certainly I would encourage all of you to do that as well. And I think you're looking into getting into a great field, and there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of different paths and different people that will help you on that journey.
Yeah, thank you so much, JP, for the encouragement. Unfortunately, I think we are running out of time, so I will have to wrap it up. But if I don't know if it's possible, if you could maybe put your email in chat.
Yeah, let me do that, and as well, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or something called Justice and Pieces, things that you can connect with me as well.
For sure.
I believe on LinkedIn. I don't have a direct link there, but if you just put my full name, you should be able to find me. And again, Justice and Pieces as well, if you want to listen to other people or just go back whenever you have time and watch some recordings. If you're interested in politics, there's a lot of those politicians there. And certainly, again, the best part of coming live, like Harry got an opportunity to ask specific questions to people, but again, if not, you can listen in and watch. And certainly, again, want to reiterate to you, Christiane and Aisha and everyone, keep doing what you're doing. I mean, because you have a different perspective. I mean, pre-law students want to know different things, and getting the opportunity to ask lawyers and law students and everyone else about those paths and answers is the only way one of the ways you can learn. And it's very unique because, we probably have this technology and capabilities for a number of years, but it's only now that we've been pushed in a pandemic to really take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. For sure. All right. Well, I think that's it for today. John-Paul, thank you so much again for being here and talking about your career as a lawyer and instructor, and also the Justice and Pieces project. It was all very insightful and very interesting. And I know pre-law shadowers, Aisha and I, are very grateful that you can that you could take some time out of your probably very busy schedule to join us. And thank you all of you who came to this session, who are watching this session as well. Once again, we'll be posting the session on YouTube very shortly. So for those watching the recording, we really hope that you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed hosting it. So thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording, but yeah, have a great night, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.